So you have to be careful what you say. Now, I know rude things being said about our district directors and especially division directors, of course.
We're live on YouTube today, are we?
Of course we are, yes. We're always live on YouTube.
And Moira, especially area directors as well.
Especially area directors. Actually, we're possibly not actually visible yet because I think I was... no, we're not visible.
Can I say welcome to our viewers and welcome to replay viewers?
You could, Paul. You could, Paul, if we were public, but we're not public yet because Moira was doing things. Moira was doing things and she hasn't undone the things that she did. Just give me patience for 1 second whilst I undo something that I did yesterday. Right. And go public. Oh, we are public. That's okay. I thought we were private. Right. We're away. And we're live. Good. What a beautiful picture, Paul. I wish I could.
I would like to welcome all our viewers.
I wish I could have some of that chocolate.
And as you can see, there are 4 of us here today because we have a very special guest. And we will be interviewing Gaia on segment 2. And she's there for you all to see. You'll recognize this young lady from District 71 contest on the Sunday. This is the person who brought everything together when things were crashing behind the walls. Gaia was pulling us all together, keeping us on track, keeping us entertained, educated.
Okay, Paul.
We have the privilege of having her with us today.
We are ready to go. Believe it or not.
Okay, Moira.
So I'll give you a 3, 2, 1 as usual. 3, 2, 1, go.
Good evening, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talker on irishtalkers.com. Our email address is info@irishtalkers.com. You can also find us on Facebook as the Talk Show for Talkers. And as always...
Stop there, Ted. Your chair is terrible. It really is. When you stood up then and you sat down, we got creak, 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 creak.
Special effects, Moira. That's not the chair, that's my bones.
So can we start again, seeing it's so early?
From the very start.
From the very start, yeah.
Okay.
3, 2, and try not to move, Ted. So, yeah, just 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome, Toastmasters from all over the world and from all the different districts. You're very welcome to the Talk Show for Talkers here on irishtalkers.com. Our email address is info@irishtalkers.com. You can also find us on Facebook as the Talk Show for Talkers. And we look forward to your comments, your questions, your feedback. Indeed, we regard these as evaluations. You can also listen to previous shows on our website, irishtalkers.com. We also publish the Public Speaking Weekly, and this is a roundup of links from the internet, all about Toastmasters, public speaking, confidence, leadership, all the nice things that you like to read. So look for our newspaper link on our website. My name is Ted Melamfi, and I'm joined again this week by the mercurial Moira O'Brien.
Now, Ted, you completely threw me there because you introduced me first instead of introducing our second presenter. But I'm delighted to be mercurial, and I will attempt to flow very smoothly throughout this recording.
Superb. Well done, Flojo. Sorry, well done, Moira. And we also have the passionate, persuasive personification supplied by Mr. Paul O'Malley. Unmute yourself, Paul.
If you keep on lauding me, I'll know when to come in. Listeners, it's terribly good to be with you today. And thank you very much for listening to us. I always wonder what you're doing while you're listening to us.
I hope they're listening to us, Paul, and listening attentively. Now, I'm not going to present the 4th person that YouTubers are looking at the moment, because for those who are just listening, I'm keeping this as my own little secret for the second segment, which you will all be tuning into tomorrow. And it's by enormous expense that we have a very special guest that we are going to be speaking to. And on this week's show, we have the usual eclectic mix of what we have every week. We have a thought for the week. We have a word for the week. We have in segment 3, Paul is going to be telling us what the role of the division director is. In segment 4, Moira is going to explain to us how or why you ruined that speech. So there are going to be gems and jewels there, little nuggets that we can all hang on to. And this is our last show of this season, so it's historic in more ways than one. And my thought for the week comes to me from a person whose book I'm reading at the moment. That book is Straight from the Gut by a man with the name of Jack Welch. And some of you will know who Jack Welch is. He was one of the, if not the most well-known director, manager, chairman of the board, CEO of GE Electric. And that man didn't turn that company into a millionaire company. He turned it into a billionaire company. So his thought for the week is coming to you via Ted Malamphy on this show today. And I thought I had the words up in front of me, but I haven't. But I nearly have them off by heart anyhow. It goes like this, or something very like this. Before you become a leader, no, I better get this right.
Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself.
Well done, Jack.
When you
and
become a
after
leader,
you become a leader, it's all about growing the other people.
Close.
So I'm going, Maura, give us that again.
Before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others.
Well done, Jack. Well done. And that is Jack Welch. And in actual fact, Jack Welch only passed away quite recently in March. And at the time, I was reading his book, Straight from the Gut. So if any of you listeners out there want to read a book on business strategies and how to play the role of CEO, then the words of Jack Welch are manna from heaven. So Paul, comments? On Zoom or on mute? On Zoom.
On Zoom, yeah.
I was just thinking how useful a quotation that is for people who are members of Toastmasters. In this sense, you practice the art of leadership within Toastmasters if you're on the club leadership team, on the club executive or on the club committee. You practice it there. You practice it on the club. You practice it on the members in the club. But why do you do it? One of the great reasons to go on a club committee is so that you might become a better leader and get a better job in society, get a better promotion, ultimately get yourself a better pension, perhaps, if you really want to boil it down. But to become a leader in society, it's very handy to have a place where you can practice. So if you translate this into Toastmasters, it is before you become a leader in Toastmasters, success is all about growing yourself. From the day you come in and you do your icebreaker, you play your roles and everything like that. So without going on too long about it, I think it's the first part of it, forget about the second part till later on. I'll cover that when I'm talking about division directors in the third episode of this week. But just thinking of the ordinary member in a club, they're growing themselves. And that's what they're doing before they become the leader of their club. And I think Jack Welch hit it nicely there.
I think it's a really good saying, because when I joined Toastmasters, I joined it for my own purpose to improve myself. And as I often say, leadership qualities came along and tapped me on the shoulder. And I didn't realize that I was actually gaining leadership qualities till I was asked to become a committee member, and then realized that actually all along I'd been learning these skills.
Yeah, and that's the wonderful thing about Toastmasters, that all the learning you do is subliminal, and you learn because you do, and you continue to do, and before you know it, you wake up some morning and you say to yourself, I'm after changing as a person. And that's the leadership qualities that are being instilled in you through all the different roles that you take on when you go through Toastmasters. That's why the wonderful thing about Toastmasters is that you're encouraged to put your hand up, even though you don't appreciate or realize the actual journey that you're going to go on. It's at the end of the journey when you discover the wonderful things that Toastmasters will do for you and the opportunities that you pick up. So that's why I really like what Jack Welch said. I think it is a lovely quote.
It is. And I have to say that I spend more time in Toastmasters today helping others than I do developing myself. Actually, I should spend more time on myself, to be honest with you. But you just get to that stage where it's much more fulfilling to be giving back than to be trying to improve yourself.
But you see, Moira, this is the whole thing about Toastmasters. The more you give, the more you get back. So even though you say you should be working on yourself, what you don't realize is that when you are helping others, then you are learning so much yourself. Because you get all different kinds of people in Toastmasters. You get all different kinds of people in your family, in your inner circle. You'll have different types of people. And what you're learning is how to be able to go with those people, how to see what their stresses and strains are, how to be able to help those people to become better people. And that's the beauty of Toastmasters.
Indeed.
And Paul, are you going to give us your word of the day?
Thank you very much, Ted. The word of the week for this week is distinguish. It's spelled distinguish. Distinguish. And it means to notice a difference between two things. A lot of people in Toastmasters are people for whom English is their second, third, or fourth language. So a word like distinguish is worthwhile noticing it. You hear the word used within Toastmasters quite a lot, but it's used as an initial, DTM, and that stands for Distinguished Toastmasters. But what does the word mean? There are many situations where you want to notice that two things are not the same. So you can say, I see a difference between A and B, and that when you do that, you are distinguishing between the two things. You're putting them in two different categories. The word distinguish is also is useful in a situation if you're climbing a mountain and you're going up into fog and you can see something in the distance. You can barely distinguish the sunlight coming through the fog. So you can barely distinguish, and it is that you can barely notice that there is something different from the environment. Another meaning of the word distinguish is when you call somebody distinguished. And that, the most common meaning in English in that situation is that somebody stands out from the crowd. They are a distinguished person, a person, generally speaking, who deserves to be held in high respect. That's the sense in which it's mainly used in Toastmasters, because you reach a certain level in Toastmasters after you do a lot of things, do a lot of learning, You do a lot of development of yourself in order to be able to communicate more and more effectively. But that isn't quite enough. You also need to be able to show your ability to support other people in your role within clubs, within different parts of the organization. When you put the improved communication ability and the improved support ability, leadership ability together, both of those things take a good deal of time. And you don't become distinguished overnight. You don't become distinguished anywhere overnight. And you're certainly not born distinguished to anybody other than your parents. So that word distinguished is worth using, especially if you want to talk to somebody in Toastmaster who is known colloquially as a DTM. And if you belong to the same school of thought as myself, you think the initials are almost a pithy way of referring to somebody who is a distinguished person. And I think it's very unfortunate that very distinguished Toastmasters fail to distinguish themselves by their use of language and substituting initials for a word that will command attention. Go outside Toastmasters and talk to other people and you say, I'm Paul O'Mahony. Well, no, I'm not one. I'm Moira O'Brien. I am a distinguished Toastmasters from a very distinguished Toastmasters club in Cork, known as Blarney Toastmasters. Somebody is going to perk up their ears and pay attention to you. That is my view and the usefulness of the word distinguish.
Thank you, Paul. Let us distinguish this segment from the next segment by calling a halt. And we'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow at the same time when we are going to be interviewing our guest, Gaia Cilento. See you then. Way over time. Don't know how that happened. I don't understand where time goes. I know where it went. It went on a very long discussion that Ted and you had about general things, about how wonderful Toastmasters.
Good man, Paul. Well done.
Which I sat here saying, will you hurry up and get it over with? And then I went into a long diatribe about the value of the word distinguish.
Well done.
This is
may or may not have been interesting to somebody other than myself.
No, it was very interesting.
During which I engaged in a major critique of people who call themselves DTMs.
You're only jealous now because you didn't get there yet.
Well, I'm already distinguished in some.
I know that.
The question is, I'm not distinguished within Toastmasters. I haven't done enough yet.
You will. You will. You'll get there.
Before I'm put in my grave, I will have somebody say he was a distinguished Toastmaster.
I will say it, Paul. I will say I love that. I love that explanation. For me, English is my second language. I think was very, very well processed, very well explained. So thank you for that.
Oh, that's the best feedback I could have got from anybody. Thank you.
Yeah,
and I took notes.
Well done, Gaia. That's lovely. I could see you taking the notes. Yeah, that's lovely.
Yeah, I am, because I'm learning from the best.
Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Very good.
No, we don't claim to be the best, Gaia. We claim to be second best.
But it's an ability that is a characteristic of a distinguished person if they have the ability to learn from others.
Absolutely.
The ability to learn from others is not widely distributed. Many people are trying to give the impression that they know everything already.
True, yeah. And the moral of that story, and particularly and especially for you, Gaia, is that you don't have to be a teacher to be a teacher. All of us are teachers.
God, Ted, you better interview her.
People in Toastmasters particularly are teachers.
You know, you need to find out her ideas, not yours.
Yeah, okay, well, we're going to do that too.
I'm happy to listen. I'm happy to listen. Yeah. No rush.
Yeah. Well done. Thank you, Gaia.
She's getting nervous. She's getting nervous.
Thank you.
Right.
No, she's not.
We're nearly there, chaps.
Okay, no worries.
Paul, you will need a nice espresso with that chocolate.
My last piece of chocolate. Now, if you were here, I'd have a difficult decision to make.
Paul, do you tell me you've eaten the whole packet?
Will I give it to Moira or will I give it to Ted? That would not be an easy decision. And because it would be so hard and I wouldn't want to get any bad feeling among the three of you, I think I would have to take it myself.
That's...
That's a fantastic explanation as well.
Yes.
Well, that's Paul out of the show for the second segment anyway, because he'll still be chewing.
Well, I'll tell you what, Paul, if you and I go... No, if you go invisible, if you stop your video, then I can stream prettily, which makes life much easier because I can go onto the three-speaker view. That's much nicer.
Okay.
Okay, so Ted, we'll bring you back in.
Okay.
In a second. I will introduce this, I think, if I may.
You can call me back in, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters, listeners and friends, to part 2 of the Talk Show for Talkers here on irishtalkers.com. And this week, we have a guest. I'm delighted to be able to listen to what this person has to say. And Ted Menanfi is going to do the honours by introducing our guest. Ted, over to you.
Thank you, Moira. And it's a lovely way to start this particular section of the show, because Paul finished up with a word that's a very important word, distinguished. And listeners, Toastmasters, would-be Toastmasters and friends, the person that I'm going to be speaking with now is distinguished. Maybe not a DTM, but I'm talking about distinguished with a capital D. And our guest today is Goya Cilento.
Yes, perfect pronunciation. Thank you, Dad.
Thank you. And Goya, it's a pleasure to have you on the Talk Show for Talkers.
It's my honor to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you for taking time out to be with us. And most of you, in fact, all of you Toastmasters who would have been at our district finals on the Sunday of our, what would have been our conference weekend, will have had the pleasure of meeting this young lady. And it's what I always feel, that even though there may be darkness, at the end of the darkness, there is light. And we would not have had the pleasure probably of meeting this young lady, but for the fact that we have this COVID-19 and we were forced to conduct our business as Toastmasters via Zoom. So what lovely flowers to be able to pluck from the darkness when we get back into that light. And Goya, you that day did a superb job. Did you enjoy that day?
I loved that day with all my heart. And I think that you're totally right. It was because of COVID-19 that we were streaming in Zoom, which was live on YouTube. And it was such a great opportunity. And probably without this COVID-19, this experience wouldn't have happened. I enjoy from the first second until the very end. But I must say, I don't know if you noticed, behind the scenes, I was pretty emotional. You can ask my husband.
Well, I'm not going to ask your husband, because what I saw was exuberance, enjoyment, the fact that you were out there talking to all of us, bundles of energy. And I went to the party later on in Nick Lahaney's, and you were still there, full of energy, full of exuberance. It was incredible.
Yes, even the after party, I must say, was like the cherry on the ice cream. I mean, it was to meet ourselves again in an informal way and talk about the experience, share our new friendship, and it was such a great experience. And I loved it, but well, I I went for a walk in between the final and the Nick Lacani's party, I must say.
Oh, well done, excellent. So you were able to clear your head for the next episode?
Yeah, I went for a nice walk of half hour. I live in Dublin city centre, just beside Trinity College, and there is the Liffey. So I was able to have a nice walk there and refresh myself and coming back to the after party.
Oh, you're after painting some lovely pictures for us there. I'm still licking the ice cream here with the cherry, and then you tell us about the party and the walk down by the Liffey by Trinity College. Oh, what? And the place is surrounded in such beautiful history.
Yes, I know maybe because of my accent, you might think I'm in Milan or Rome, but I'm actually in Dublin city centre. And this is the beauty of the international Toastmasters. We are international, and I'm Italian, live in Dublin, so I'm so blessed. Oh,
wonderful. And we're so lucky to have so many Italians living in this country. Some of my best friends are Italians. Even south of Italy, Sicily. Some of my best friends are from Sicily.
That's great. So you might tell me some Italian words.
Well, the ones I have would be ciao and bellissimo, and not too many.
But perfect pronunciation. Perfect.
Thank you. Thank you. And you know what we do when we have a guest on, Goya? We ask 5 questions. Now, I'm after asking you a couple of questions already, but just to get it back on track, what brought you to Toastmasters?
Okay, so I have been joined Toastmaster 2 years ago. What brought me in? This is a good question, actually. I used to work for a business which closed down in Dublin and was moved back to my mother country. This is actually funny. I'm Italian. I came to Dublin to work for a business who was migrated to Italy. And I was in this kind of situation, you know, where something finishing. The business I used to work for, I was very attached to it. I used to call it my baby, just to make clear how attached I was to that. And I was a little bit, you know, craving for something new. I was like, oh, now that the business I used to work for is gone, what am I going to do? And I was so lucky because the HR manager I work for told me one day, come on, Gaia, come with me, come with me. He was always running, by the way, come with me, come with me. And I told him, okay, I'll come with you. And he told me, come with me to our public speaking class. I'm sure you love it. And that was September 2018. I went to this meeting. I was so fascinated, but I was also scared because imagine myself for first time, it was Madam Toastmaster, Mr. President, Timer, and Poet Master, and Topics Master, and question, and this and that. I was like, slow down, people, slow down, please. But the more I was going, the more I was fascinated, and it became such a love at first sight. So I was so, like, from a potential tragedy, I was actually able to get a amazing opportunity, which was Toastmasters. So
superb. You remind me of my daughter in a way, actually, because my daughter works for an Italian company.
Okay, that's great.
An Italian pharmaceutical company.
Wow.
Riccardi Data, you might have heard of them.
Yes, I heard. Yeah, wow.
And how she got that job is a little bit like your story, actually. She worked in China for 4 years with an Irish company. And when this Irish company was scaling back in China, she came back home and she ended up working for Riccardi Data.
You see, like, this is life, that in Italy we say when a door is closing, a new door will open. So
yes, yeah. We say that in Ireland too.
You said in Ireland too.
Yeah, we say that in Ireland
Maybe
too.
in a slightly different way.
Well, it must be beautiful to hear it said. Give it to us in Italian.
Quando si chiude una porta, si apre un portone.
Oh, lovely. That's beautiful. Yeah, that's lovely. Excellent, well done. And what has been the greatest benefit to you of your time in Toastmasters?
It's been such a, like leadership, as you said, yes, because I'm like Moira, I just started and then I became part of a committee. And when I became part of a committee, I felt so many benefits. I've been working as a secretary, and that was a great opportunity because I had to listen to the meetings, take notes, and I still take notes, by the way.
Well done, yeah. And very neat notes, I may say.
And many, the benefits are thousands, like improving the leadership style and listening to people, language skills improvement. As I was saying to Paul, English is not my first language, so and the best part is the people. I mean, there are so many nice people, and we are all in the same boat. So,
yes.
And this is the beauty of Toastmaster. We all support each other.
Well done, and that's exactly what it is. There's 100% support from people in the Toastmaster family. What has been your biggest Toastmasters challenge?
The final.
What's that? Yeah.
Presenting the final so far has been my biggest challenge, but I'm looking forward for having more. It has been a challenge because it was in Zoom, because it was lots of preparation before, lots of things I need, not lots of new things for me. I mean, I'm very humble in this sense. I mean, we are all here to learn. So, and that so far has been my biggest challenge. But I have the feelings I will have more challenges in the near future.
Yeah, I definitely, actually, where I was very impressed, and it's a question I wish to ask you, is who made the decision to ask you to take on that challenge? Because I think whoever it was, he was inspired, or she was inspired.
You see, I cannot tell you a specific name because it was just a kind of events. I think the decision was made by several people because I had the chance to jump in on the semi-final. I don't know if you watched that, but I was a backup for the semi-finals all day long. So even if you didn't see me, I was behind all the time. And suddenly there was a technical issue. So the actual Madam Contest chair line got interrupted because one of the things about Zoom is that if your internet connection is not the best, you might disappear. We are all very familiar with that. And I had to jump in. And I think that was the opportunity. There wasn't then a specific person who asked me, or it was just the chance I got it. And I felt so sorry for the Madam Contest chair who couldn't continue because she's an excellent presenter. So I felt so sorry for her, but that 10 minutes probably brought me so luck.
Yeah, incredible. What an opportunity to get. And the way you grabbed that opportunity, even though you felt sorry for the Madam Contest chair, what she didn't know that some of us were outside cutting wires to make sure that you would be... No, I'm joking, just in case she's listening to us. But you did an excellent job. I love the way you brought it together. And it's very, there's something very poignant about what you've just said to us, because look at the way opportunity presents itself. And if you can grab that opportunity, that could be the difference between what you will regard as success and what all of us will regard as success. You know, yes. You did a great job. You did a great job. And I have no doubt that you will be doing lots of presentations in the future, not just in Toastmasters.
Thank you, Tad. You're very kind. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you could, Goya, what would you change, if anything, in Toastmasters?
Let me think about that. Maybe a little bit the layout of Easy Speak. Maybe because I'm a very, I come from an airline industry environment. So sometimes in the airline, things are so much easier. So we can rebook flights, we can exchange flights. Maybe a little bit of a layout of Easy Speak which took me a while to get into that. So just a tiny bit, maybe more colorful, but I leave it up to the IT. I'm sure they are doing an excellent job behind that.
Yeah, it's a good point, yeah. And you know, Toastmasters, actually easy speak, even though it's part of District 71, it's not something that Toastmasters themselves have an input into. It's run from sort of outside by a Toastmaster, but I think you're right in that I found it and I still find it, and I've only been in the organisation 12 years. It can be a bit difficult to navigate around.
For beginners, it can be difficult.
Even for those of us not beginners.
Although there are so many information that I wouldn't exchange for the world. I mean, once you understand how to navigate, it's an excellent database. So fair play to that.
Yeah, well done, well done. And I've asked that question, Gaia. I've asked that question of international presidents. I asked that question of Daniel Rex, the CEO, and you've answered it in a lovely way. And I always get good answers. And I used to be a little bit like you when I was asking the question to those people, because an international president, you have to really have gone through the ropes as a Toastmaster to get to that lofty position. But I used to be biting my lip when I was asking them that question. But they always gave me a very honest answer, you know. They always gave a very honest answer. So final question, Gaia, what keeps you coming back to Toastmasters?
I cannot live without Toastmasters any longer. I mean, it's such a... I enjoy it so much that I don't feel even the pressure that I have to take more roles, and it keeps me coming back. The beauty of people, as I said before, because we are such a nice bunch of people and so helpful to each other, so kind, and I cannot live without that.
Yeah, well done. That's excellent. You've discovered something beautiful about Toastmasters.
Yes, I did.
And just before we sign off on this little interview, what's the name of your club?
The name of my club is Enterprise Ireland, and we are in Dublin North Side. We are in a business park called East Point, which is just beside the sea, so it's actually a very nice place.
Lovely.
And Enterprise Ireland, yes, that's the name of my club.
Oh, well done. Gaia, it's been a pleasure speaking with you on your Toastmasters trip. And I hope everybody will be listening in, because this will be going out live on Saturday. Or, well, it won't be going out live, but it will be going out to those of us who are alive. It's been a pleasure, Gaia. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure for me. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Join us again tomorrow when Paul will be looking at the role of the division director. Muted. So I am, Paul, Ted. Join us again tomorrow when Paul will be looking at the role of the division director. We'll look forward to seeing you then. Bye for now.
Bye. So, Gaia, you're going to stay with us? Will you stay with us?
Would you like me to switch off the camera?
No, you stay with us for the rest of the show if you can.
Don't worry.
Gaia, thank you so much. I found it very moving and very special and a very valuable contribution by you to other people.
Thank you. It's been such a great experience since I saw you at Tree, guys. I'm having so much fun, and what I said was coming from my heart. I mean, it's true that I love Toastmasters, and I actually forgot maybe to say that my family is in Milan, is where the biggest pandemic is now. Thankfully, they are all fine, they are all well, but I've been worried about them, and I was here in Dublin, and I couldn't go to them because there was quarantine. And Toastmasters, believe it or not, it gave me so much strength because it made me do things I would never done without this. And I feel sorry, obviously, for all people who have been affected. I couldn't be more sad for that, but it's been such an amazing experience, Toastmasters, since when I started.
Yeah, well done, Gaia. And I hope you will make sure that your family in Milan will be listening on Saturday to the talk show for talkers and to the beautiful words that Goya. Yeah,
I will.
Yeah. Brilliant,
And
brilliant.
I listened to, and my parents actually watched the finals, and
superb.
they had even their favorite speakers, and we couldn't understand many things, but they understood more or less what was about.
Brilliant.
And they loved it. So
fantastic. I know actually who their favorite speaker was.
Who was?
You. They were so proud of their daughter. It had to be you.
No, they were laughing. And when there was even the speaker from Sri Lanka saying, "My parents are watching me from Sri Lanka."
Yes, yeah.
That was very. It was very nice to say, because I thought even my parents are watching me from Italy. So we were live internationally. So you see, from Italy, from Sri Lanka, people were watching us from all over the world.
Superb. Yeah, superb. Lovely. That's beautiful. Well done.
Okay, folks, we are ready for part 3.
Okay.
Ted, you going to bring us in?
I'll bring Paul in, so.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
And welcome to this segment of the talk show for talkers this week, Toastmasters. And I hope you all enjoyed our offering yesterday from Gaia Cliento. And she was putting out a particular message to her parents, who were so proud of her when she was on as our Toastmaster in the contest. So we say, not ciao. How do you say hello? How do you say hello, Gaia?
Ciao.
Ciao, Bella.
So
ciao, bello.
We say ciao to the people in Milan, particularly Gaia's parents. And I'm now going to introduce Paul O'Mahony, and Paul is going to be giving us what he's going to be doing for next season. He's going to tell us what the role of a division director entails.
Thank you very much, Ted, and welcome, listeners. I recently had the honor and good fortune to be elected the director of in Cork of the division in District 71, it's Division A. And as part of the process of going forward for election and giving people a chance to scrutinize me as a candidate and all the others too, I was sent a list of questions that I would might be asked in public in a 6-minute interview. This would be an opportunity for me to communicate as well as I could on issues that are regarded by the district and indeed by Toastmasters International as really important. And one of the questions which I had to prepare myself for goes as follows. Perhaps the division director role is one of the most underutilized positions in the district. Do you advocate establishing metrics of accountability and responsibility for the position? Why or why not? Metrics of accountability for the position. I myself hadn't come across the phrase metrics of accountability. I had a pretty good idea what it meant, but that puts a division director in a situation where they have to prepare. What would they say if they were asked that question? And indeed, there are 12 division directors in District 71, and all of those who went along to what's called the candidate showcase had 6 minutes. Actually, the ones that were in uncontested elections had shorter period of time. But so there I was. What is the role of the division director? Now, if I add to that the fact that there's going to be some training this Saturday for all of the incoming division directors and others, we'll come on to them in a minute, to help them help us to do our role next year, you might be wondering, well, what on earth do division directors get trained on? Because whatever division directors are trained on will tell us something about what is their role. You get trained to do your role. So I'll tell you what's on the agenda on Saturday. The first thing that's on the agenda is that the district director comes on stage and communicates his vision, which he's already worked on with the district leadership team, communicates his vision for the following year. So this is the division, the district vision. So in a sense, this is real leadership. This is saying, it's a bit like, you know, the first time the new president of the United States addresses the nation, it's a speech about vision. Where is the organization going and where are we going to go this year? So you would expect all leaders to get that clear, because you can't do a good job as a leader within an organization unless you know what the business plan is, what the strategic plan is, what we're trying to achieve. So it then goes on to talk about the training covers. The second part will be about developing successful teams. Developing successful teams. This suggests that a division director has a job to do in terms of developing successful teams. Well, I can tell you one thing. One thing I know about the role of a division director is that there are area directors, and their area directors are really close to the clubs, or a lot closer to the clubs than the division director. In fact, some members of clubs aren't even aware that there is such a thing as a division director, and they're not really interested either. But they might also not know there's an area director, but the club committee does. And the club committee is leaders of the club. So we've got this various layers of leadership, and teams are needed. The district leadership team needs to be a successful team. The division directors, do they need to be a successful team between themselves? That's an interesting topic for another day, which may or may not get discussed at the training. But the relationship between the area directors and the division directors definitely needs there to be a good team. Just imagine a bad team and imagine what that would do potentially throughout the entire division and the area. That'll tell you how important that is. Now, going on from that, the next thing we're going to cover is how to establish and support new clubs. That suggests to me that a division director's job involves establishing new clubs. So I have to say to myself as a division director, how many new clubs am I going to develop next year? How am I going to do it? What do I know about establishing new clubs? Who can tell me? Where can I find a team of people who are sufficiently interested in this to give voluntarily of their time and their skills to do it? Is there anyone who's in favor of establishing new clubs in Division A? That is my responsibility, both to find out and also to cultivate and encourage and honor and reward and celebrate people who are interested. And, you know, supporting the new clubs, you know, you could say, some people would say the easy part is to set up the club. The hard job is to keep it going right from the time that somebody thinks, let's see if we can charter the club, right the way through. And in some cases, clubs don't reach the point where they're fully established. People try really, really hard. And it is not easy, I've been told. I've never done it myself. You see, I'm inexperienced. I need experienced people. So that's what a division director needs to do. Surround herself or himself by experienced people. But that's not good enough. If you surround yourself by experienced people, you're going to do the same thing as we all did last year. You need new blood. Where does a division director get new blood? The new ideas. If we do what we did last year, we'll get the same results as we did last year. And that won't be an improvement. Toastmasters in District 71 has lost members. Toastmasters in Division A has lost members. So I better not be complacent. Division directors need not be complacent. What about the quality of the clubs? The next section is on enhancing club quality. Well, we all know if the quality is bad, members will leave. Simple as that. You won't retain members. Members will wait till they've finished paying their dues, and then they'll slide out. Won't even tell you they're intending to leave because the club quality wasn't good enough. That ain't the culture. Nobody comes up at a meeting and makes a speech saying, my speech to the club is that I'm leaving next week. Why? Because the quality of my experience here wasn't good enough. Let me tell you 3 stories about what happened to me in the club in the last year. 1, 2, 3. Now let me summarize for you what I learned from that. Let me leave you with a call to action. This is what this club needs to do. If you do all that, I'll be back. Bye. Nobody does that, right? If they did, who knows? We might know better how to improve the quality. Anyway, I seems to me as division director now, I'm not really close to the club. So what do I have to do? I got to work through the area directors. How do I work with the area directors? I hope they're more interested in club quality than I am. See, it's not my job to intervene. It's their job to intervene. They should be obsessed with club quality. And you know what? The people who really needs to be obsessed with club quality are the club president, the vice president for everything else, the club leadership team. If they're not interested in club quality, they ain't going to go very far. They might replace the existing membership with a few new members, but they certainly ain't going to blossom and be spoken of as, you know, so that's really important. But it's the club leaders who need to be madly obsessed with club quality. They're the people who are close to the ground. They're the people who can get the gossip. They're the people who can pick up the gripes and this much, but also the enthusiastic new people who want to make this club the best club ever because they've recently joined, and they don't want to join a poor club. They want to join a top-class club. That's what it is all about. Now, the final thing is then we're going to get the district director, Jared Mannix, pulling the whole thing together at the end. And what happens in Toastmasters that pulls everything together? I'll tell you what it is. It's the Distinguished Club Program, but it's more than that. It's actually called the Distinguished Recognition Program because there's a process of trying to get everyone at the club, to get more members, to get more education awards, to get all sorts of goodies to happen. But then there's the area. Is the area going to be distinguished? I mean, really distinguished. And what about the division director? Am I going to be any good at helping my division to get distinguished? But then the district. Have I got a role to help the district? The district won't succeed unless the clubs succeed, unless the areas succeed. So they sit up on top, hoping that they'll be successful. So that, my friends, my listeners, is a little bit about what I see and what I've learned, what I've been taught, what I've been shown is the role of a division director.
Well, I don't hear any discussion from that. I think
we're all the time.
Well, we're all sitting back and just say, wow, well done, Paul. That was great. So we'll bring this session to a close then, and we'll see you again tomorrow when I shall be looking at speechcraft again and speeches, and specifically how to ruin your speech. We'll see you then.
God, I need a timekeeper, guys. I am awful at this.
Paul, I gave you time.
Paul, I took notes.
Yeah.
Paul, I gave you satisfaction.
Well done, well done.
Paul, when you're
very impressive, Paul.
Paul, when you're talking, do you not have the Zoom screen open?
I do, Moira, but you see, the problem with me is that I'm a bit of a delinquent. I don't realize, I forget, and mea culpa, that I should actually be making a 7-minute speech.
Yes.
Time for you poor people, and I'll have to change, you know, leaving time so that you can join the conversation, because the poor old listeners, 12 minutes of me, soapbox.
18 minutes. No, not quite. Let's see. Let's see how long it actually was.
No, Paul, it was very good. One of the things you touched on is so important about the division directors. The people who actually do the work in the division are the people like Gaia. It's the area directors. And it's your job then. You are the conductor of the orchestra. So it's your job to make sure that your area directors play the tune that you want to have. That's the important bit about bringing everybody with you on your journey.
Right. Point of fact, Ted, Paul, you were just only a few seconds over. You were 12 minutes, 24 seconds. Ted, on the other hand, I wouldn't laugh if I were you, Ted, because you were 17 and a half minutes with Gaia.
Well, Gaia took up 16, I only took up a minute.
Look, Ted and Gaia are the stars of the week.
Yes, absolutely. It was a lovely conversation.
Second of that.
Absolutely.
I'm just Gaia, guys, no worries.
Moira.
No, there'll be none of that. We have the whole...
If you can all the ums and ahs that Ted used,
all
the ums and ahs Ted used, and all the superfluous words he used, I think we might get down to 16 3/4.
What you don't realise is that last week I cut out, I think, a total of 4.5 minutes from the whole show, which is actually not so bad because we divide that over 3 segments. And very little comes out, obviously, at the second segment when we're playing a YouTube video. But so you cut that down. It's only just over a minute and a quarter, minute and a half per section.
Yeah.
And most of that is pauses.
Yes. Yeah. Stuff that is superfluous.
And the odd which tends,
yes.
Wouldn't it be fun, Moira? Wouldn't it be fun if you amalgamated stuff that you delete?
Yeah, unfortunately, it takes time doing that, Paul.
Together for
bloopers,
several things, and we got a whole episode of.
Yes.
Paul eating the chocolate, and he doesn't share with you guys. That would be fun.
And the little rant that we have before the thing starts at all, Gaia.
Yeah.
That little rant that we have to get all those things off our chest.
Yeah,
guys,
sorry, Gaia. The one thing I wanted to say to you actually is that when you were telling our listeners that next Saturday, now your segment doesn't go out until Sunday.
Yes, you have to think about that.
So what we
Moira can delete the word next. No problem at all.
What we can do is we can run segment 3 again next week.
Hey?
Well, if we run it again next week, the people will listen to it then.
Oh, you mean put out the role of the division director?
Yeah, you're recording there.
Saturday.
Yeah.
No.
And do the interview on Sunday then. Just turn them round.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that because we have the format is there. Maybe I'm after putting this wrong now, but it went through my head. What we need to do is we'll have to flag it somewhere.
But you know what? The word next, if it's deleted, you see, the thing is nobody has time.
Oh, no, Paul, sorry, I'm right. Paul, I'm right, actually. If we play your segment again next week, then what they're listening to this Sunday, they'll be listening to next Saturday. Because you've given it this Sunday.
Yes. I'm bad at this sort of thing, so I'll leave all that to my team.
We'll leave that tomorrow. Mara, can you understand what I'm saying?
No, Ted, and that means that we won't have a section 3 this week, so because I'm not going to go and record.
No, I'm not suggesting that. We'll still have the segment 3 this week.
I'm just going for some water, guys.
There's no point in repeating it, Ted, when the repeat is up there on Spotify, YouTube, and everywhere else.
Yeah, of course that's true too. If you want to do it that way. Yeah. But what I'm saying is,
if you want next Saturday,
Paul's segment from this week again next week, then the people who will be listening next Saturday will hear exactly what he's saying in the proper context.
But next Saturday is the club officer training. The Saturday week, is the club officer training. So nobody's going to be listening.
That's got nothing to do with us. Nothing to do with it.
Nobody's going to be listening anyway.
He'll be telling us what the division director does.
Yes, but
next Saturday after mentioning it this Sunday.
Yeah, but next Saturday is the club officer training when all the division directors and area directors, etc., are busy at the club officer training.
Yeah, I know. I understand that.
Anyway, let's not carry on.
We'll fly on to your part, so.
Yeah, we will. Well, we might do if I can make up my mind what I'm going to say. Sorry. I've got it here somewhere. Right.
I'm going to put a question in the chat, Moira, for you to look at afterwards.
And I promised Gaia that she'd get an opportunity to speak to you on your segment, Paul, but you took up the full 12 minutes. Moira,
no worries. I love it. I'm enjoying the experience, guys.
There'll be plenty.
Well done. And Moira, if you can leave 2 minutes
there'll be plenty of opportunity, Ted. There'll be plenty of opportunity for coming in on any of the points that I'm going to make, because this particular list, I think, has 20 things in it. I'm not going to cover 20 things. I'm just going to dip in and out of it. And yeah, you can chip in on any of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll raise our hands or put up the reaction.
Well, yeah, I might not be looking at that screen too much, but anyway.
But what about if I put my hand up? You'll have to look at the same screen.
Well, you see, I'm going to be looking at my notes, so.
So in other words, you won't see the screen. You won't see my hand up.
I might. Well, certainly, if you do that, if you make it, movement, but don't move your chair.
Maybe that's how I catch your attention. Move the chair.
But then you ruin the audio.
All right.
Okay. So, Paul, you going to bring us in? You're muted. And
I'm delighted. You're going to talk about how to ruin a speech. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me 3, 2, 1.
I will. 3, 2, 1, go.
This is the best part of the talk show for talkers this week, because Moira O'Brien is going to tell us how to ruin a speech. Welcome back, listeners. This is something that every single one of you will be glued to find out whether what you've done in the past works with what Moira is going to give you advice on how to do it. So let us put our ears together to listen to How to Ruin a Speech by Moira O'Brien.
Well, Paul, it's not so much that I'm going to tell you what to do. I'm going to tell you what not to do. Subtle difference. Now, you've heard me mention the name Craig Valentine many, many times on this show. Craig Valentine is the 1999 World Champion of Public Speaking. Craig Valentine gives away a vast amount of free material on YouTube. On the internet, on his websites. I'm going to dip into one of his pages on craigvalentine.com. And this is maybe not so publicly available, because he sends out occasional newsletters to his followers, and this came from one of those newsletters. I will be talking a little bit at the end, though, however, how you can sign up to his 50 speaking tips, and also how you can get the replay of his recent storytelling 6-part series, which finished last week, which I can highly recommend, as I took it myself. And if you do join up using our link, then the show will get a little bit of money to help us on our way. So that's one way that you can help the show. But we'll talk about that at the end. So what I'm going to be dipping into is Craig's 20 mistakes that ruin a speech. I'm not going to be going through all 20 of them because that would take too long. But what I'm going to talk about is just a few of the ones which resonated most with me. The first one, and number one on his list, is rushing, going too fast. So we absolutely roar through, not only rushing in speed, but also rushing through your material. One of the key things that I found in my Toastmasters journey is that over time, I have slowed down and slowed down, and almost slowed down so far that you feel like getting up and kicking me in the backside to get on with it. But I've learned that little bit of lesson, I hope. But if you rush your material, you don't give your audience enough time to absorb it. And one of the most important things is that when you make a key point, you pause and let that point sink in before you go on to the next point. Okay, that's the first one. Let's look at, now there's a lot of in this of storytelling, and I could go in detail on storytelling, but I don't want to spend too much time on that because that really deserves its own segment on its own. But let's talk about humor. How do you get humor? Now, there's two ways of doing it. If you're a scriptwriter and you write for one of the big comedians, then maybe you're clever at writing jokes. I'm not. How are you? Can you sit down and write a joke? Can you actually deliberately Well, let me tell you something, folks. The best way of putting humor into your speech is not to write a single funny bit. Yes, Paul,
Moira.
I'll come to you. Yes, okay.
Can I ask you, did you hear the one about the Irishman, the Englishman, and the Scotsman?
I shall ignore that and go back to what I was about to say, which is don't write speech. Let jokes come out of your script. Now, when I write a speech, I write it straight. And as I'm editing it and refining it and practicing it, I will find bits where I can say, well, if I just change that a little bit, it might be funny. It might get a laugh. So the trick is to uncover the humour that is lurking behind what you're saying. That is the best way of getting humour into your speech. Unless you are a true comedian and you can genuinely write your own jokes. And there are very few of those around. Now, we've talked about having a foundational phrase in the past. What is a foundational phrase? Foundational phrase is something that is a phrase of maybe less than 10 words. It has a rhythm to it, not necessarily rhyming, but it has a rhythm to it. And the one that I keep on quoting is, of course, Dhananjaya Hettiarachchi, the 2014 world champion. And his was, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. But I'm going to give you a few more from Craig Valentine. No change, no story. Most people don't want to be most people. Tease them before you tell them. What gets recorded gets rewarded. Now, these are very silly things. They're simple, and they're not easy to find. But try and find a foundational phrase in your speech and use it. Repeat it 3-4 times. Paul.
One of the most successful foundational phrases in recent years goes something like, "We're going to build a wall."
That's the foundation of a different...
was the foundational phrase for the whole of President President Trump's campaign. That's a foundational phrase, isn't it?
I believe so. Excuse me 1 second. One of the beauties of the recording is that I can cut that out. Let me just make a cut mark here.
I thought that was a foundational sneeze.
Very well said. Yes. Okay. Right. Let's quickly steam on. You speak to everybody instead of speaking to one. Now, if you watch any of Craig's videos, he does a very good one where he exemplifies this. And he says, if you're walking down a street and you pass by somebody and you say to them, "Have any of you been to Cork?" What do you expect that person to say? I'm not any of you, I'm me. So if you can say, have you been to Cork? Then, of course, you're going to get a response because you're talking directly to that person. So speak to one person, but look to all. Okay? That makes sense, Paul?
Moira, you're talking to me now. I am in the audience and you've got my total attention. Can you tell me, what did you just say to me?
You didn't have your ears on. Okay, Paul, we'll forgive you. I'm talking to the world, but only to you. There you are. Let's see, what should we...
the best exponent of that I ever heard was Alistair Cook, Letter from America. You sat and you listened to Alistair Cook many, many times, and he came right into my house and ultimately right into my heart and mind.
Wasn't he a beautiful speaker? Wonderful man, wonderful.
Many of our listeners will not have heard of him, so we better change the subject.
Sure. Let's look at mistake number 12 on the list. They don't sell the results of heeding their message. So when you're giving a speech with a message, and I hope that all your speeches do have a message, because that's what makes speeches more memorable. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to tell people what to do and how to do it, or are you trying to tell them the benefits of doing what you're asking them to do? In other words, are you trying to tell them the results? If you do what I'm doing, you will become a better speaker. Rather than do this, do what I'm telling you. I'm telling you if you should do this. No, don't do that. Listen to what I say, heed what I say, and if you listen, you will become a better speaker. Okay, don't sell the results. Sorry, sell the results. Don't sell the message itself. Sell the results. A lovely one. I really relate to this one. You don't become the characters in your stories. Now, and lots of us are learning how we can put dialogue into our speeches. And dialogue is a very powerful way of telling a story, rather than saying, he said, I'm going to go, and she said, I'm going to go, and he thought, well, I might go. And in other words, you are describing what the speech that's taking place. Instead, you can say, well, I don't want to go. Why don't you want to go? I don't want to go because... But you can have a conversation with yourself just by turning your body 45 degrees or so to one side and 45 degrees to the other side to demonstrate that you are a different person. You can change your voice. You can look up if you're a child talking to an adult. You can look down if you're an adult talking to a child. You can do a lot of this to demonstrate and to bring that dialogue to life, rather than just describing the dialogue as you would in a book. Because we're not reading a book. When the audience is not reading a book, the audience is seeing what is effectively a performance. And this performance is part of your story. But when you're giving the narrative of the story, then you go back to looking at the audience. And you see the distinction. I see you nodding your heads, which is good. Any comeback from that, folks? Anything you'd like to comment on? Gaia? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We have a few minutes left.
I feel very involved with your first suggestion. Do not rush the speech. Like, as Italian, I have an accent, and I usually forget to pause. And this is actually a very useful suggestion, I must say, Moira. And I took so many notes. And I'll make the best use of it. So thanks for that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Well, I could go on, but we have come to the end of this week's segments and this week's show, sadly. Gaia, it's been wonderful having you as a guest. We'd love to see you again sometime. And all it remains is for me to say goodbye from me and to say goodbye from Ted and
Bye from Paul. Thank you for listening.
Ted is muted, but he is saying goodbye. There we are, folks.
What I said was wonderful to have Gaia as a guest. And Gaia, what we're going to do is we're going to have you back when you're 6 months into your role as area director.
Yes, but tell me how I can help you to promote you, because
you've been helping us today, help to promote
but
it.
if I can share your YouTube channel between my network, I'll do it from tonight, guys.
Oh, yes,
I love the experience, and believe it or not, I took so many notes. I loved you guys. I loved you.
You're after writing a book.
Yeah, I can write a book now.
Gaia,
well done.
Gaia, there is one specific thing you might be able to influence in your club or in your area or in your division. So I've seen some Facebook pages which have inserted into the Facebook page the ability to play the podcast.
Link, yeah.
So there can be a link to the podcast. If you think that would be a good thing and it would be welcomed, then I'm sure Moira could give you whatever you need to do it.
Well, I'd rather a link to the page, a link to our webpage, because what we do on our web page is we have the links to the 4 segments of the show as soon as they are published on YouTube, on Spotify or whatever, or podcast platform people use, because it goes out, I think, on 12 different podcast platforms. But that way, if you do it through the website, you're then bringing people into the whole show rather than just to that one specific.
I must be more involved in Facebook from now on. Poor Teddy was writing me via Facebook. My favorite social media is LinkedIn, but I'm doing a social media marketing diploma, so I will be in Facebook. I was thinking even Twitter, to be honest with you, which is very active. It's all about now, what's going on now. And I'll do some Zoom trainings, because even what you did today, Moira, wow. I mean, the segments and the live, and it's something I really want to learn. But I'll check that I'll check that poll, and if I have any doubt, I'll send you a WhatsApp. Is that okay for you?
Yeah, super.
Well, you might like to have a look at the recording of this stream and see the bits of cleverness that go into this. It's very easy to learn. It takes time to set up, but I actually, I was complaining at the beginning that I hadn't set it up for 4 people. Well, during the show, I did actually extend it to be able to set it up for 4 people. So now I can switch between Ted, and then to me, and then to you, Gaia, and then to Paul.
Well done, Moira.
Oh, well done, Moira. You're such a good IT. I mean, well done. Seriously, like, you're so efficient. Like, I'm impressed.
I'm impressed too, actually.
We're all impressed,
But I have to say that when I was setting up for 4 people, I was doing it like this, because usually when I'm in the middle of a stream and I start changing things, the program crashes. But today it didn't. So I'm going to stop the stream now. So say goodbye to the 3 people who are watching us. Thanks for watching, and do listen to the show, because you'll hear a much edited version, which will be much smoother.
Thank you.
Much better.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.